there is actually a security vulnerability in the H20 chip. On July 31st, NVIDIA executives were in Beijing, happily thinking that they would make a big sale. However, on the same day, China's Cyberspace Administration interviewed NVIDIA, requiring the company to explain the security risks related to the vulnerability backdoor in the H20 computing power chips sold to China and submit relevant certification materials. Some people may ask, is there any evidence that the chips sold by NVIDIA to China have serious security risks? I can only say yes, and the evidence is conclusive. Many members of the U.S. House of Representatives have publicly called for advanced chips exported by the U.S. to China to be controllable, so that technical blockade measures can be taken when geopolitical tensions arise. They jointly proposed the U.S. Chip Security Act, requiring the U.S. Department of Commerce to force U.S. chip companies to add special modules to chips subject to export controls, so that these chips have the functions of tracking, positioning, and remote shutdown. This is to strictly prevent controlled chips from flowing into countries and regions that are not allowed to purchase them, and to shut down computing power chips in designated areas when the U.S. needs to do so. Don't forget the Lebanon pager incident and the PRISM incident. Even without the Chip Security Act proposed by the House of Representatives, these bloody facts are enough to explain everything. Although the bill is still one step away from being passed. NVIDIA has already integrated these functions into its chips in advance to avoid affecting its sales once the new regulations are introduced. The content of the U.S. Chip Security Act is directly and publicly available on the official website of the U.S. Congress. Therefore, it can be said that the chips sold by NVIDIA to China have serious security risks. Coupled with the actions of the United States, I believe this possibility is 100%. Given that there is conclusive evidence of serious security risks, why is it only required that NVIDIA provide explanations and relevant certification materials instead of directly banning the H20 chip? Because chips are a very special type of product. Proving what additional features are embedded in a chip is extremely difficult. It is necessary for NVIDIA to first submit sufficient materials before any verification can be possible. It should be noted that while a chip is extremely small in size, its design diagram is enormous. A chip at the level of H20 internally integrates tens of billions of transistors. During the actual design process, tens of billions of transistors are designed and then connected in different ways to enable different computing capabilities. Different chip design schemes result in different performances, and even different functions, for the same transistors. Unless one obtains the original design diagrams, it is almost impossible to know what backdoors are hidden in the chip, such as communication positioning, remote shutdown, or even functions that allow the chip to self-destruct or upload data. Therefore, without the cooperation of chip companies, it is extremely difficult to fully prove whether a physical chip contains illegal backdoors solely through examining the chip itself. Moreover, the evidence provided by the U.S. Congress this time reveals extremely serious security vulnerabilities. Tracking and positioning functions are already problematic enough, but the ability to directly shut down the chip remotely is even more alarming. If the U.S. chooses to do so, the computing centers built in China using H20 chips could collapse instantly, causing huge economic losses. These backdoors can at least be assessed and speculated about. What is more difficult to control are backdoors that allow remote manipulation once connected to a network, for example. These could execute certain commands through the chip, assist in cyber attacks, and achieve coordination between internal and external forces. Since the U.S. Congress has presented evidence, NVIDIA must provide an explanation, prove its innocence, and submit relevant certification materials. If it cannot prove compliance, NVIDIA's H20 chips may face a comprehensive sales ban in China. Some may ask, if H20 is really not allowed to be sold, won't China have no chips to use? In fact, I have explained this in previous videos. Many people think China cannot produce chips, but in reality, China is a chip-exporting country. It is only in cutting-edge chips that China has not yet made breakthroughs and still lags behind the US, such as 2 nanometers and 3 nanometers chips. In 2023, Huawei's Ascend 910B was launched, with performance equivalent to that of H20. Also in 2023, the Carrier GMLU 370X8 was released, with about 86% of H20's performance. In 2024, more Threads MTTS 4000 came out. In 2025, Biren Technologies B2104 was launched. All these computing chips have 90% to 110% of the performance of H20. In other words, China does not have just one or two computing chips comparable to H20, but a whole range of them. The H20 computing card was designed specifically for China and is only sold to China. It was born exclusively for the Chinese market. The rest of the world is buying H100, so H20 has no demand elsewhere, only China would purchase it. With China taking the lead, countries like those in the EU and India may follow suit, requiring NVIDIA to provide similar technical explanations. If these backdoors are confirmed, NVIDIA's global AI chip business may face supply chain reviews and market access barriers.